What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the VSO Gun Channel. Thanks for joining us here today. It is excellent to have you here, as always. Thank you for watching. We got a quick one coming your guys' way today. These are some brand spanking new sights from XS. You guys have been watching the channel for a while. You guys know we've been working with XS for several years now. I was turned on to their big dot sight, which is the site that I choose to use some years ago, and I've been working with them ever since, just because I think that they're good people and make a solid product that's made here in the United States. Along those lines, they have since come out with several different iterations of their sights because they realize that that big dot presentation doesn't work for every application for every shooter. Totally get it. And since then, we've done a couple pieces on some of their other offerings, including the 1,000 rounds in less than 20 minutes. If you guys didn't see that one, that was basically testing to see if we could get the sights to burn off. And the most absurd test that I could think of was to shoot 1,000 rounds through a Glock in 20 minutes. Using this slide right here. Anyway, link in the description for that one. These ones, or that one was on their RAM sights. This is their Minimalist offering. And just to run through these sights really quick, it's basically a sight that is designed for use for somebody who doesn't want a cluttered presentation with multiple tritium vials. So this thing has a single tritium vial there at the front with a photoluminescent ring around it, so that charges up in the daylight, ambient light, whatever. And then the rear is blacked out. You can see that there's nothing on that. And the idea behind that is if you're using this with, say, like a red dot on your pistol or something like that, I don't know why you would do that, but if you wanted to, you present that, you're not fishing around for a whole bunch of glowing things. You basically have two to manage, the front sight and whatever's glowing in your reticle. Now, if we take a look at these sights, they are made of metal. They do have a tritium vial in the front, like we mentioned, so it's a radioisotope. I think it's 10 years warranty on these things, no questions asked. But then I also wanted to take a look really quick at the geometry of the rear sight here. It is serrated so that it doesn't cast any glare. And you'll notice also that it is swooped backwards a little bit as far as the geometry is concerned. At this angle. This is actually a relatively, I mean, it's ever so slightly a rearward angle, but I mean, it's got to be like 1 or 2 degrees. This one is slanted back, so if the sun's directly overhead, it's going to black itself out. The only time you really have to concern yourself with this thing getting super glared is if the sun's directly behind you type thing. So the serrations will help with that, but the idea is that the sight hoods itself. Now, along with that, I mentioned that front basically vertical angle, and that is for racking off of your belt. The cool thing about XS, and the reason that I go with them, is the personnel that are in charge of design and things like that are people who train, people who actually shoot, people who have tactics in mind, and that goes into their products. So this thing is designed from the ground up to service people for defensive purposes. Bravo to them. These things look like they're doing good. Now, what is interesting to see, though, is remember, usually when you think of XS, you think of that wide V with that big dot in the front. This is more of a traditional notch and post sight, but it does have a fair amount of air on either side, which I find interesting. And the cool thing that I think is that there's a lot of companies that have gone to the new gimmicky thing, which is the U-notch sight. Really, really hate U-notch sights. This is not a U-notch. Now, because this is a sight video, I don't think that we need to spend 20 minutes, talking about the efficacy of these sights. So really quick, I just wanted to walk it from like 5 yards to 30 yards and see what the point of impact looks like at that distance. I'm gonna go get some cardboard and then we'll do the shooting. All right, guys and gals, at 30 yards, we're gonna walk it in, shooting each time, 5-yard increments, and we're gonna be using standard 115 grain ball from Fiocchi. And you guys will know how I did before I do. So here we go. Of course, a little bit of wind blowing in. One. Now, I didn't see this in real time like you guys did, but it looks to me like we had high across the board here for our distance shots. And then once we got into about 10 yards, the sight started to drop down a little bit. And then on the last shot, I actually tried to compensate for that low drop. So this one's a little bit high because I raised the sights up. So basically true, maybe a little bit low at the close distances, and then at the farther distances, to compensate for that ballistic drop, it hits a little bit higher. Remember, there's a coalescence point. So these sights are probably good out to 100 yards. I'm gonna actually shoot one really quick just to see if I can hit a target at 100 yards. So to clarify a little bit, the reason you would want the gun to operate that way as far as the sighting picture is concerned is you have to think about perfect point of aim, point of impact at the most usable distances for handguns, which is like 15 yards and in type stuff. And then those farther distances, the sights will start to cover a substantial portion of the target. So the idea being that if the gun's doing this, if the gun is doing this at 10 yards, and then we try to use that same sight picture at 50, for instance, then we're going to be covering the target. We're not going to be able to accurately hit that target because we can't see it. So instead, we move to this, pushes the point of aim down, we coalesce the sights that way, and we get good impacts. Now, at 100, I don't know what that means. So we're going to try it. We're going to start off with dead nuts, and then we're going to move the point of aim as necessary, see what we can do. So we're just going to start off with dead nuts. Let's go a little bit high. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's still going up. Let's aim at the base of the target. Yeah. I end up aiming at the base of the target, basically the brown spot down there where the mud had splashed up on the thing is where I was aiming to put shots on target at that distance. So continuing with that trend, the gun is shooting up to compensate for the apparent size of the target, it looks like, is kind of how they've got them set up. Again, maybe it's I just can't shoot, but I was aiming at the base of the target to make those hits. Now, side note, I've always gotten my sights directly from XS or, some other third-party distributor type thing, some kind of gun retailer. But now they're available on Amazon. Just saw them the other day. So there you go.
It's like the epic Grand Thumb video where he's like, here, just give me your mag. And puts the M18 mag. He's like, it'll work, trust me. All right, ready?
Mm-hmm.
Those are nice.
It ought to be nice as lapped as it is.
Yeah.
The frame itself has got like 10,000 rounds on it, and that slide has like 2. Thank you. Are you good?
Yep, it's good.
Thing's hot. You know what? I think these might be the best ones that XS has made. Those are really easy to pick up. I am not a U-notch person, and this is not a true U-notch, but it is a little bit wider than I'm used to. And really, I actually kind of prefer that over the standard notch and post sight. I'm not gonna lie. I don't have anything else to say.